If Europe is on your retirement travel shortlist, 2026 is the year to travel smarter, not harder. The museums are still the museums, the cafes are still the cafes, and the train rides are still the train rides. But the way borders are managed is changing. Fast. The good news is you don't need to feel anxious about it. You just need a simple system that prevents the two things that ruin a trip before it begins: surprise requirements at the airport and avoidable delays at the border. In this video, you'll learn what's changing, what's staying the same, and how to set yourself up for a smooth arrival even if you haven't traveled internationally in a while. This is designed for Canadian, American retirees and beyond who want frictionless travel, less line stress, fewer "why won't they let me" board moments, and more time doing the fun part. And if you want more calm, practical retirement travel systems like this, subscribe to Travel Choir and turn on notifications, because the next videos build a complete, one system, any trip routine. For decades, short-stay Europe travel was familiar. You land, you queue, you get a passport stamp, and you move on. That stamp-based era is being replaced by a digital biometric system that records entries and exits more accurately. The headline change is the EU Entry-Exit System, often called EES. It started operating on October 12, 2025, and it's being introduced gradually at borders, with full implementation planned by April 10, 2026. In plain language, EES means that on your first entry into participating countries, your passport details are recorded, along with your facial image and fingerprints, and then your entry and exit dates are logged electronically, instead of being tracked by stamps. The goal isn't to block tourists, it's modernization. But new systems at borders often mean queues in the real world, especially during busy seasons, at major hubs, and during the ramp-up phase when staff and travelers are still getting used to the process. This is why the frictionless traveler's mindset matters. Assume the border may take longer than you remember, and build that reality into your itinerary so you don't feel rushed, reactive, or trapped in a chain of stressful decisions. Even as the technology changes, your trip still succeeds or fails on a few core rules that airlines and border officers enforce consistently. Start with passport validity. For short stays in the Schengen area, you should plan on having a passport valid for at least 3 months beyond your planned departure date from the Schengen area. This is one of the most common quiet trip killers, especially for retirees who assume it's valid through next year, so I'm fine. Sometimes you're not fine, because the rule is about the date beyond your planned departure, not the date you arrive. Next is the Schengen short stay limit. For most Canadian and US travelers, the big timer is the 90 days in any rolling 180-day period rule in the Schengen area. Think of it as a moving 6-month window where your total Schengen days can't exceed 90. It's not a calendar reset, and it's not solved by leaving for 1 day and coming back. It's rolling. This matters most for retirees because slow travel is popular and slow travel is wonderful, but it only stays wonderful when you can prove you're compliant. Finally, know what Schengen is and isn't. Schengen includes 29 countries, including several non-EU countries, and it does not include Ireland or Cyprus. That matters because your 90-day clock is about where you are, not about Europe as a general idea. Here's the practical way to think about EES. It's a first-time registration moment at the border. Unlike a pre-trip authorization, you don't apply for EES ahead of time. When you arrive at an external border of a participating country, your details are recorded, including your facial image and fingerprints, and your entry and exit are logged digitally. Because countries are introducing EES gradually, your experience can vary depending on where you arrive and when you travel. Some airports will feel smooth with clear lanes and helpful kiosks. Others may feel slower while staff guide travelers through new steps. That variability is exactly why a frictionless plan starts before you fly. If you can, choose flights that land earlier in the day, avoid razor-thin connections, and treat arrival day as a soft landing rather than a day packed with timed plans. Also, pay attention to official tools. The EU notes that in places that support it, travelers may be able to pre-register data within 72 hours before entering using the Travel to Europe mobile app, which can speed checks. If the system offers a legitimate, official way to reduce friction, use it. And set expectations calmly. Industry groups have warned that queues can be serious during rollout periods, especially at peak times. That doesn't mean don't go. It means go like a pro. Comfortable shoes, water accessible, medications in your personal item, and enough time built in that a delay doesn't cascade into missed trains, expensive last-minute taxis, and a stressful first day. Now we get to the part most people half hear and then misremember at check-in. There are two different permission systems to understand. ETIAS, for much of EU Schengen short-stay travel, and the UK ETA for the United Kingdom. ETIAS is the EU's upcoming pre-travel authorization for visa-free nationals traveling short-stay to certain European countries. EES and ETIAS are different systems. ETIAS is scheduled to start in the last quarter of 2026, with the exact start date to be confirmed. When ETIAS is operational, visa-free travelers will apply online before departure, and carriers will check that you have approval before boarding. That last part is the key. This isn't just a border issue, it's a boarding issue. And until ETIAS officially launches, treat any website claiming it can get your ETIAS now as suspicious. Separately, the United Kingdom is rolling out its Electronic Travel Authorization, or ETA. Starting February 25, 2026, eligible visitors without a UK ETA will not be able to board their transport and cannot travel to the UK. The current guidance says the ETA costs £16, and it is intended to allow multiple journeys for stays of up to 6 months at a time over 2 years, or until your passport expires, whichever is sooner. The UK also recommends applying at least 3 working days in advance, because some applications can take longer. Here's the frictionless takeaway. In 2026, your trip can be stopped before it begins, not because you need a visa, but because you missed a digital permission step. So your new habit is to treat authorizations like boarding passes. You don't guess, you don't delay, and you don't outsource it to random sites. You check official sources, apply the right way, and store the confirmation where you can access it, even if your phone is having a bad day. And if you like checklists, I've put a free Frictionless Europe Prep Pack in the description, along with a few optional travel tools many retirees use to make arrival smoother. Use what fits your style. Most travel stress isn't caused by the big rules. It's caused by small failure points stacked on top of each other. The first is check-in and boarding. Airlines often enforce eligibility strictly because they're responsible for transporting eligible passengers. Your goal is to arrive with your passport validity clearly beyond your return plan, your confirmations accessible offline, and your story simple. Where are you staying? How long are you staying? And how are you supporting the trip? Calm clarity reduces friction. The second failure point is connections. In 2026, build connections like you're traveling during winter weather, even if it's July. If you connect through a busy hub, assume border processes could be slower than your last trip and choose longer connection times. Retirement travel isn't about proving you can sprint through a terminal. It's about arriving with energy. The third is phone and data. Digital travel is wonderful until you land with no signal and can't open an email. The frictionless solution is 2 layers. Save key confirmations offline on your phone and carry a single-page paper backup of the essentials. You don't need a binder, you need smart redundancy. The fourth is new system confusion. When EES steps are new at a specific airport, you may see changed lines, kiosks, and staff instructions. The smooth traveler wins by being early, polite, and organized, not by arguing. The system doesn't care how many times you've been to Paris. Retirees don't travel like everyone else, and that's a gift. You can travel slower, stay longer, and choose comfort over chaos. But border rules don't stretch just because your schedule is flexible. If you're taking multiple Europe trips in a year, or mixing one Schengen trip with another later, the 90 to 180 rule becomes the backbone of planning. This is where the official short-stay calculator becomes a quality-of-life tool, because it removes guesswork and prevents accidental overstays, especially when you're hopping between countries. If you want to stay longer than 90 days, the calm approach is to plan for it instead of seeing what happens. Longer stays typically require applying through the embassy or consulate of the country where you'll spend most of your time. The point isn't to memorize every pathway. The point is to adopt the right posture, choose your travel style first, then match the legal structure to it. This is also where you can design a rhythm that fits the rules. Some retirees alternate Schengen time with non-Schengen time. Others choose one base country with a longer stay pathway and then take shorter side trips. Slow travel is absolutely compatible with Europe in 2026, as long as your time in each zone is intentional. To make Europe feel easy, you don't need more information. You need a repeatable flow. About 3 months before departure, check passport validity first, because if it's wrong, everything else is wasted motion. If you've been in Europe recently, check your Schengen day count and use the official calculator if there's any complexity. At this stage, decide whether this is a short stay or a long stay, because that choice changes what you need to do next. About 1 month before departure, verify whether any authorizations apply to your itinerary. If the UK is part of your trip, remember the February 25th, 2026 UK ETA boarding rule and handle it early. For ETIAS, treat 2026 as a transition year. It's scheduled for later in the year, and the launch date will be confirmed, so you check official sources rather than guessing. In the final week, build offline resilience. Save confirmations offline. Print a single-page backup if you like paper. Confirm your first night plan, and avoid stacking arrival day with stressful commitments. Also, mentally prepare for possible EES registration steps and queues, because expecting a process is the quickest way to stay calm inside it. And on travel day, move like a retiree traveling for joy, not like a contestant in a race. Arrive early. Keep essentials reachable, and let the system do what it's going to do. If you want to support Travel Choir and make your trip smoother at the same time, check the description for the optional tools and services many retirees use for peace of mind, plus the free frictionless Europe prep pack. If you use those links, it helps support the channel at no extra cost to you. Europe in 2026 isn't about fear, and it isn't about paperwork for the sake of paperwork. It's a modern border system that rewards travelers who plan lightly but deliberately. The retirees who have the best trips are rarely the most aggressive in the airport line. They're the most prepared, the most calm, and the most consistent. If this video made Europe feel simpler, give it a like so YouTube shows it to more travelers who want a calmer way to explore. Subscribe for the next Travel Choir guides on visas, insurance, and travel systems that make retirement travel feel free again. Until next time, travel gently, plan smart, and enjoy the good parts.